Hey family, this week's guest is one of the best pastry chefs around. Padua Player, our new little bro, is one of the DC area's premier chefs, and we're happy that he took time to tell us about himself and his culinary journey. He's been either a guest, contestant, or judge on more than one show on Food Network and the Cooking Channel, so he's definitely no joke. Check out his interview and listen for the info so you can sample some of his amazing desserts. Let's do it. Welcome back, family. We want to bring you a little bit of entertainment in the midst of all that's going on, and I want to introduce you to the newest member of our family. In the past, we've had some chefs on, we've had some people who've tried to destroy my waistline, but no man is better prepared to do that. No man is more equipped to make my doctor scream on me the next time I show up than our new family member. I'm going to let you choose who you want to be in the family. A brother, a uncle. You can't be my daddy, okay? You can be a cousin.
No, I want to be the younger. I want to be the younger brother,
All
like
right.
the youngest of the family.
So I want to introduce y'all to my little bro. Go ahead and tell the people who you are, what you do, and how you plan to destroy every diet that I'm trying to stick to during this corona thing.
Well, my name is Chef Padua Player. I'm a native Washingtonian. I'm the youngest of 7. I've been in the culinary field for, if I tell you my real time frame, I may date myself. So let's just say over 20 years I've been baking professionally and at various capacities and levels throughout my career. So, I'm the youngest of the family.
All right, see what little bro didn't tell you. He buried the lead. He has another name in these streets, people. Go ahead and say it. Might as well just tell him.
Sugar Chef.
The Sugar Chef.
But my government name is Padua Player. Yeah, but affectionately known as Sugar Chef. So, either one is, I've been called a lot worse, but those names are
all right,
they're near and dear to my heart, so it's all good.
Before I get into what you're doing now, I want to start at the beginning. All right. Where does the passion for baking, cooking's in there too?
No, you know what? Believe it or not, was this prior to culinary school or after? I think it was before I went to culinary school. I did cook a little bit savory, but it's just, it just wasn't there for me. I mean, I got tired of peeling potatoes and slicing onions and that type of thing. So I'm like, I need to get out of this.
So I'm an avid watcher of these cooking shows on TV, and it seems like every time they're like make a dessert, all these super chefs that you see panic and say that baking is the hardest thing you can do in the culinary arts. Are they just hyping that up for TV, or are you really that dude?
Oh, no, I think that, baking is certainly, I always tell people that baking is more of a science and cooking is more to taste because it's, once you bake the cake, you won't know if it's a good cake until it comes out of the oven or halfway through versus if you're making a soup and the soup is too salty, you can throw some potatoes in or, put some stock or something in there to thin out the saltiness. But so I always say, baking is more of a science and cooking is to taste. So no, it definitely is a part of culinary arts that needs to be thought of a little bit more and respected.
All right. When did you make the decision that you were going to go into the culinary arts?
Well, I think it kind of chose me. I was in high school, and I knew that I was really good with my hands, and I thought at one point in my life that I was going to be a couple things. I wanted a lot of my family members were in the medical field, so my mom was like a nurse, and my sister at the time was practicing medicine. She was She was a GI doctor. So I thought, maybe I want to be a dermatologist. And then my sister was like, well, do you realize how many years did they have to go to school? So I kind of talked myself out of that. So then I was like, well, maybe I'll be a carpenter simply because I like to work with my hands. And I didn't really see myself in an office setting per se. So, I got my very first job when I was in high school. So it's been some time now.
So from high school, you kind of got into the field of the culinary arts, but what made you decide that you had to go to school to really refine your skills?
Well, at the time that I decided to go to school, I have to kind of go back in my mind and figure out where I was. I think, okay, no, I know what. My very first restaurant job, I was a dishwasher in Bob Kincaid's first restaurant in the DMV area. It was called 21 Federal. And, I was in high school, so I was a very industrious young kid. I loved to keep money in my pocket. And so my mom and I, we were downtown handling some business, and I was kind of wandering around while she was taking care of her things. And I wanted into a restaurant. It had paper up on the window, and, I told them, I wanted a job after school, and they hired me to wash dishes. And I was washing dishes for a while, and, while you're washing dishes or things are slow, they'll help you slicing and dicing things and shucking oysters, and I was making oysters pancetta and things like that. And then, I was always helping my mother in the kitchen when I was a kid. I was her little sous chef. So, I was helping her to make her sweet potato pies, and she did a lot of dinner rolls and string beans and things like that. So, I was like making bacon and stuff like that at home, just like playing with like little quick bread mixes and things like that. And while I was working at the restaurant in the evening, I would bring things in for the pastry chef to try. And then she said to me one day, she said, "Oh, do you want to come in and I can, and I'll show you how to make some things." And I was like, "Sure." I jumped at the chance, and she showed me how to make, how to use a scale. She showed me how to make, the restaurant was famous for their breads and ice creams and plated desserts. So, but in particular, she was becoming quite popular for her pumpernickel bread. And so she showed me how to make pumpernickel bread, her cobbler, and showed me how to use a scale and make ice cream and cookies. And I knew I was bitten by the baking bug right then and there. So, I left that job after a couple of years, and before I left, they promoted me to doing garde work. And so I was working in the cold station and then also helping her on weekends. And then I was like, I want to do baking full time. So I left that job and I decided to go and work in a wholesale bakery full time. A place called Gold Leaf Bakery over there in Suitland, right by the Census Bureau. And I worked there for about a year, and I was like, I want to go and study baking. So I went to school locally, and I've been in the business since then. I don't know if I answered your question or not, but
how long from when you went? Well, first of all, how long does culinary school take?
I think it was like a year and a half for me. Yeah, I think I did the year and a half, international baking and pastry skills.
And once you're done, you come straight out and you're in a job, or you have to like hit the pavement and find some place to take you?
Oh, no. When I came out, excuse me, when I graduated school, what did I do? Oh, I came back, and at that time, Chef Bob had opened up Kincaid's, which was right off of Pennsylvania Avenue, right around the corner from, back then it was Tower Records. I don't know if you remember Tower Records back then. It was Tower Records. So it was right in that little building where Tower Records were. So I got a job at Kincaid's baking. I was one of the bakers there. And I did the baking. He had a little gourmet food shop. So I was hired to do all the baking for the food shop. And then I would go and help out on the line, or I would help with some of the production for the restaurant.
All right, I've always been a little bit puzzled by baking and pastry chefs and all that, because it looks so crazy difficult. Like is it one of those things where you make up your own recipes, or you're working from something that somebody came up, 100 years ago, and it's just been, refined or duplicated for 100 years?
Well, I think that it's like anything else. I always tell people you learn the fundamentals and you learn the basics, and then you kind of deviate from there, and you learn your own style of baking. You put your own spin into it, and then you essentially create your own style. So of course I pull from mother recipes and mother techniques, but also you want to kind of modernize them, and you want to kind of adapt them to your skill and your way of baking and your way of doing things. So it's a little bit of everything. I mean, you take some of the past, but you also you kind of modernize it and you put your own spin on it as well. So I do a little bit of both. Some people are like, oh, I do my own thing, but I think it's I do a little bit of both. Most times I kind of do my own thing, but I think sometimes it's good to have that flashback dessert every now and then.
How long from once you left school till you became the sugar chef?
I'm still trying to figure out who the sugar chef is. But if you have in any family, you have a cousin that makes this, or you have a cousin that makes that, you're always doing things on the side. So, I was always asked by family and friends, oh, I'm having a party, I'm doing this, can you make me this, can you make me that? You're always, if you're good at what you do, you're always being asked to make something, or can you bring this, or can you bring that? So it's kind of a natural progression for you to kind of start doing your own thing on the side. And so I don't know if I can say a time frame. I think even before I went to culinary school, I was making little things at home. My Uncle Earl liked my peach cobbler, so I can remember making him peach cobbler. And this was, I was, starting out. Matter of fact, I was working at 21 Federal, and I was just using, a joy of cooking recipe that I kind of added little things to. So, you're always, doing things on the side. But I guess, it's kind of hard. That time frame is kind of hard to say because I'm always doing stuff on the side.
I saw on your website that you've done a couple shows that I was really shocked. You've been on a couple different networks: Cooking Channel, Food Network, the local Fox 5. How does that come about? Like, how do they find you?
Well, I've done 3 shows, and it's always. I did a show called my first show, national cooking show, was a show called Sweet Genius, and then I did a show called Holiday Baking Championship. I did that in I think it was 2015. I think it was, and then I think in either 2016 or 2017, I think it was 16 or 17, I did a show called Cake Hunters. And, excuse me, in terms of local TV, I think usually whenever you go on a national show, they always, link you with, I don't know if I can even say this contractually, but when you need to promote the show, they usually will set you up with a publicist in your area. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't, but they usually will set you up with a publicist in the area, and you would do a local show or 2, usually 1, to help promote the show and promote your episode, especially. So you kind of start from there, but you can pitch ideas to local stations. So I think that's how I started. But I've done all of the local stations. I've done 7, I've done Channel 8, I've done Channel 9 numerous times. I've done Fox. I haven't done Channel 4. They've never showed me any over there, so I haven't done Channel 4. But and I've done other, like a couple other cable shows locally. So those have been some of the things that some of the shows that I've done.
want to ask this question. You started somewhere, and even before you went to school, you still had to have a moment where someone kind of guided you into the career. What do you tell people who are trying to figure out how to get into culinary art? If they can't say, let's say they can't afford school and they're just trying to get their foot in the door.
Well, I always tell people that you have to be passionate about it, and whether that's any career that you choose, whether you're doing hair, you're barbering, or you're carpentry, or you're engineering, or whatever, you have to be passionate about what you do. And being a person of color, it's very important that you have to work just as hard as anybody else in the kitchen. And I always tell people that to go for it. You may have to. These days, social media can be good and bad at times, but I think that a lot of the local chefs, like if I was just starting out, I would have to, just be really enthusiastic and be resilient in terms of going in there, selling myself to a chef and say, will you give me a try? Or I'll come in here and work part-time. So you really have to kind of, be your own best salesman, because you have to, you pitch yourself to these shows and to these chefs. So I think my best advice would be be willing to work hard and go the extra mile. And if you really want to get into the business, I don't think it's particularly hard to get into, because I think it's a very forgiving field. But I think that, you have to be enthusiastic about it, and you have to be, resilient. Because sometimes you'll hear 1,000 no's, but you'll hear that one yes and say, okay, I want you to come in here, and chef will say, I want you to come in and I want you to work on the line a Saturday shift, or I want you to come in here and you'll be here by 7 o'clock tomorrow. I don't want you to hear this and the other. Well, I'm not sure, because I've been in situations where people say that they want to bake, and then I bring them in to make something, whether it's a cookie or something else like that. And I've had people, you'd just be surprised what kind of people, the kinds of things that people do. And I'm just like, well, how can you say you really want to get into something if you're not ready to do the work? Because it's not going to come to you. You have to do the work. So I always say just be willing to work and go the extra mile. That's the most important thing.
I see on your site, too, that you have your own line of desserts.
Well, I'm always using jams and things like that. And that's something that I kind of put on the back burner, like about a year or two now. But I'm kind of going through things and trying to figure out how to rebrand them and relaunch them. And it's always been, my dream to actually have them on the shelf, because I've always loved jams and jellies and preserves and things like that. And it's something that I use all the time. So, yeah, that's, I started out small and kind of sold a little bit of them, a little bit of product, but something, other things kind of get pulled in a million different directions. So I want to kind of relaunch those and rebrand the packaging a little bit and put them back out there. So, yeah.
So right now, where can I find your stuff at?
Well, it'll have to be, it's all curated by me and it's all custom made by me. So, you can always place an order and I'll put it together for you.
What's the website?
It's www.sugachefchef.com.
So before I let you go, I think it's important that we talk about your work with the DC Central Kitchen.
Mm-hmm.
How'd you get involved with them?
I was, they have chefs to come in and do demos and things like that. And I built a relationship, with, at the time, I think it was Marianne Ali, who was one of the culinary directors there. And, I went there and volunteered there a few times and taught a couple of demo classes. And then during that time, I also forged a relationship and a partnership with Central Union Mission, which is one of the oldest missions in the D.C. area as well. And taught a class down there, baking class. And I've been working with them on one of their fundraising events. It's called Heart and Soul. and I host the baking aspect of it. It's called it's it's a cake competition, and I usually have two cake artists to come in, and we go with theme, and they create these over-the-top cakes to celebrate Heart and Soul and Central Union Mission. So those are two local charities that are near and dear to my heart. And then also my aunt, Hannah, founded a community center located in Anacostia called Children of Mine. And it's a neighborhood center for youth and at-risk youth. And they tutor the kids, they feed the kids, they take them on field trips. And that's an amazing center. It's about 2-3 blocks from the big chair over there. And so I do some work with them. So, it's an amazing thing that my aunt founded and kind of built from the ground up over there. I think it's been in existence over 30 years. So I do work with them too. And so those are things that are near and dear to me. So, and I've also done things with, I did something called Sweet as Life. I was on the planning committee there, and that's with people with ID, intellectual disabilities. I did some work with them. So, I'm always giving back at different things that are kind of close to my heart.
So what's next? Like, where do you see yourself in the next few years? How are you going to grow?
So my next thing is I'm finally working on my cookbook. So, like anything else, that's a process. I'm finally working on my cookbook. Definitely we'll be doing more TV and rebranding my jam line, because I definitely want to start that again, because I really love making jams and preserves. So those are, a couple of things. You'll see me again very soon. Just stay on the lookout. But those are some of the things that I'll be doing in the near future, and I have a couple of the projects that are lined up, and so that's where I'll be in the next 5 years.
Look, I want to once again thank you for doing this. You got to come back, little bro, now, so I can just kind of bully you into doing it.
Absolutely, and I just appreciate the opportunity to engage with your audience and to meet you, and it's a great thing to support folks and support other businesses in the area. So, yeah.
In case they weren't listening the first time, make sure they know the website. Give them all your social media. Let them know.
Okay. So on Facebook, it's Sugar Chef Desserts, and on Twitter, I'm at Sugar Chef. Instagram is Sugar Chef, SUGACHEF. I haven't figured out that TikTok thing. So, I kind of take, things that I can do one at a time. So I don't know if I'll do the TikTok thing. I don't know if I have the attention span of doing that, but it looks fun. So I think I'll just stick to watching them. But and then my website, of course, is it's sugarchef.com, SUGACHEF.com. So I'm always around.
I really appreciate it, man. You got to promise to come back.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Because, I have some things coming up that I definitely want to come back on and promote. So, yeah.